I'm Aaron Sagers, and this is Talking Strange.
What horrors will be exposed on a collection of videotapes from the secret vault of the world's deadliest and most socially uncomfortable serial killer? Hey there, spooky nerds. Welcome back to Talking Strange, the paranormal pop culture show. I'm your host, Aaron Sagers, and today we are talking about the Creep Tapes Season 2, which debuts Friday, November 14th on Shudder and AMC Plus. Now, the Creep Tapes is part of the Creep franchise, which had two previous movies, and of course there was the first season on Shudder of the Creep Tapes. And in this show, our serial killer, played by Mark Duplass, he puts out an ad for some filming projects, and these very unfortunate filmmakers answer the ad, and the killer's questionable intentions do surface, as does the killer's increasingly odd behavior, and the victims will learn they may have made a deadly mistake by answering those ads. Now, this season, from creators Mark Duplass, Patrick Brice, features guest stars such as friend of Talking Strange, David Dastmalchian from Late Night with the Devil, as well as Robert Longstreet from The Haunting of Hill House, Katie Aselton from The Unholy, and more. So, Mark joined us to talk about the second season of the Creep Tapes, as well as we talked a little bit about some, making TV, making movies in this very strange entertainment landscape where it seems like we have limitless streams of content, but somehow also seems like there's fewer and fewer things being made. So let's get to it. The Creep Tapes with Mark Duplass. Hey, Mark, good to talk with you. We've spoken a couple times. I think the last time was for Out There, the Crimes of the
Festival. Right.
Yeah. So pleasure to chat with you again, man. And welcome back to the Creep Tapes. Where does this fit in? If there is a timeline within the Creep verse, where does this fit in?
Well, I think that ostensibly, we're getting into that closet from the end of the Creep movie and just picking things out and seeing them. So there's no specific chronological order to them. And I'm hoping we're going to get to do lots and lots of seasons. So you're going to see some where, I'll be 75 years old making these, and then you'll see some where we might go back. So to me, it's really about popping around and not knowing exactly where you are.
Right. And you're right. I mean, I guess we're really not locked into time, but I saw you post a tweet that by the time we're done with this, there'll be box sets, comic books, merchandise, and everything. I don't know how much of that was in jest, but is TV sort of the way to go with this, or do you still anticipate a third installment of a movie?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident we'll make a Creep 3 at some point. TV's really fun right now. We've just found the form. We're just starting to get into it. We haven't near mastered it yet. And this is the right time for that, for sure. And Patrick is busy. I'm busy. Chris Donlin is busy. And so what the Creep Tapes also allows for us is to sort of, when we have a free 3 days throughout the year, we can light out and make an episode. We don't really go into a production mode where we shoot them all back to back. And that also allows me to create different looks throughout the year, depending on what else I'm doing. And so it really slots into our life, not only creatively, but functionally. So I think we'll be focusing on that for now, but we're still chasing the big white whale of Creep 3 and what that idea can be, because as you might imagine, sustaining an 80-minute narrative for this, now that we already know what this person is capable of, that requires something really new, surprising, and different. And I won't settle for anything less than greatness. So who knows? This could take 30 years to make it. I don't know.
Yeah, and I really loved the movies, and the first season. What I locked onto with this is you tell these tight stories in 20, 25, 30 minutes, and you're able to take on all the different personas, all these different characters of the killer, and in a way that kind of throws us into more of a um, and not chaos, but a unpredictability with it. Where he's a great actor. He's bouncing around in all these different roles. So in a way, it feels like a very satisfying way of exploring this character in between the films.
It's so fun. I mean, honestly, I don't think I've ever had more fun making this show from a creative perspective. There's usually, a group of 5 or 6 of us, and we run off somewhere to a cabin somewhere or a house somewhere, and we usually live where we're shooting, and we spend a few days together, and I cook breakfast for everybody, and we eat all our meals together, and we have in-depth conversations, and David Dastmalchian and I will be talking about our mental health struggles, and then all of a sudden you'll start to see that start to make its way into the episode because we improvised a lot of this, and that, to me, that holistic way of making art is just like, it's everything. And right now, in a time in the industry where things are being homogenized, where they're making fewer things, to be able to make something this cheaply for Shudder, who's just such a great company and really just supports us and gives us full creative freedom to do whatever we want to do. It's very rare, so I really feel like we're kind of in a sacred space right now, and I want to ride this while we can.
Yeah. Yeah, and you touched on a couple of things that I want to get to, but in the season 1 finale, you kind of give us this insight into the killer and Peach Fuzz, and also this story involving his mother, if it is indeed his mother, which, he's not exactly the most reliable narrator at times, but
he's the most unreliable narrator, I think, maybe of all time. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can never truly rely on what he's saying unless, is the moment of truth when he's talking to the camera itself? Is that his closest confidant, where we're closest to the truth of this killer, or is he still lying to the camera?
Look, here's the truth, is that all these questions you have are questions you should have, and I want you to have those, and I don't want you to have answers. But I will say this, it's possible that almost nothing he says is factual, but almost everything is true.
Mm-hmm. I am not someone that needs an origin story for everybody.
Yeah.
We kind of got caught up in that as with entertainment, and yet I'm going to ask: is there an origin story that you and Patrick at least have in the back of your heads? And is there a plan to roll out more of that origin story? Because I feel like the closest we've really gotten was that season 1 finale, and then we've gotten these reveals of he was a virgin and the second movie. But do you have an origin story? And is that
we have a mythology that we follow, and we have certain rules, and there's I would say a code of conduct that we follow for him in general. But we also allow ourselves the ability to break it should he get so deep into character and lose himself that would go away. And as to what we're going to tell the audience, that sort of remains to be seen. Depends how long this thing goes on.
Anything you can dish about the code of conduct or the rules that? No. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
No, but I had to ask. And yeah, man, it does really, it's not that I know you very well, but I'm very familiar with your work, and it does seem like watching these episodes, it seems like you're having a freaking blast. You already said this is the most fun kind of project you've worked on, but
it's really hard. It's real because while it looks like we're just kind of farting around, you don't have coverage. You're getting everything mostly in a oneer. And so designing that shot, cutting the dialogue down, increasing things, making sure you get the pacing right. It doesn't really happen in the editing. It has to happen in the shot. So it's quite exhausting, but it's so fulfilling and it's so fun. And I would say, you did, you asked me about, mythology and things like that. I mean, I can't speak to a lot of that, but as to this character, there is a lot of me in this character. I know that sounds crazy because he is technically a serial killer. But I've learned a lot about myself playing this character. And in Creep 1, it started off exploring this sort of the close talker in me, the early hugger in me. I'm the kind of guy who might hug you like one hangout too soon, and you weren't quite ready for it, because I just love connecting with people. And taking that thing and dialing it up to such a hyperbolic level and allowing myself to look at it objectively and be it has been so fun for me. And honestly, for Patrick, who knows me and loves me as I am, to explore that, it's better than therapy, because in therapy you're looking right at yourself and you can't really see. When you take it and you put it over here and you dial it up to 11, it's easier to see. And it's really, I don't know, there's something kind of great about it.
I mean, I don't want to presume, but in the second episode of this season, he does highlight how much he places importance on professionalism and then having a good sense of humor. Are those you as well?
Those actually are not me, but I love people who are very into professionalism, who happen to have very unprofessional ways of doing things. I
Right.
find very funny and very sweet. The professionalism rant is actually kind of specifically not me. Actually, I hadn't thought about that before, but yeah.
This premiere episode with David Dastmalchian, as you mentioned, David has been a friend to this show, to this project, as well as he's become a buddy of mine, and I loved this episode where we get this copycat of Joseph, and you actually see him doing some stuff that we've seen before, like some quirkiness, some awkwardness, but it's in a it feels like he's going into places that we haven't really seen him before with his performances, even maybe dancing. I was just curious about the breakdown of that and the evolution of that character or development of that character with
Yeah.
you. Any insight you can provide?
Yeah, I mean, well, look, I would say as to the David portion of this, we met him at a Creep Tape screening at Vidiots in LA, and immediately fell in creative love. And so I built this episode for him and around him specifically. Just love the idea that someone might have somehow stumbled across a bastardized version of Creep 1 on the dark web, and what they would have done with it. That just really cracked me up. And also wanted to work with David because, he's such a soulful individual. We both are very open about our mental health struggles. I wanted to get in a house with him for 3 days and see what would come out. And, as to the character, I mean, I think for me, I'm trying not to be too precious at this point. I'm trying to, with these episodes, take some wild swings. In my mind, it's actually not only okay, but maybe good if when you watch this, you might come across an episode and be like, what the fuck was that? Why did they show me that? And then think about it later and maybe think, oh, okay, that was interesting. They're not meant to all be easy to digest crowd pleasers, And so in that way, I'm taking some wilder swings with the character this season. And trying out some new things.
Yeah. The element, the plot point of the, a bastardized version of as you said, of the first film making its way on the dark web. That did lead me to the question of how did it end up on the dark web? Am I thinking too much about that, or is that something
you should think as much as you want about that? Yes.
is that something that you at some point will address?
No comment.
Right on. He not to spoil anything, but the direction of this episode in particular, this premiere episode, he does offer the killer offers up the copycat Joseph a choice of sorts, and is the killer sincere in that offer, and does the killer seek some sort of true companionship?
Yeah, I don't know. What did you think? What did you get?
Again, he's an unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
I think like humans, he's complex. It could be both sincere and insincere depending on what response he gets, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't want to be evasive about it, but I think that I want to leave you in that spot. I think that's
Yeah.
a good spot to be left. And me answering that question to me kind of oversimplifies what it can be. But I think you hit on something really insightful there, which is that the ability to contain multitudes, to be absolutely sincere and maybe not truthful, or at least not factual, is real. I always loved the band Steely Dan growing up, and I could never figure out why. And I sort of figured it out later when someone said to me, well, it's because they're sarcastic and sincere at the exact same time. And somehow the duality of that is similar to what's happening with this character that I play. The way he's looking at you and the things he's saying, he absolutely believes them, and they absolutely are deeply spiritually true. But the factual nature of what's happening is hard to know if it's actually real or not. And I just love that.
Because of the nature of how the show comes together with you and Patrick, but also you're bringing in these guest stars, and there's a
Hmm.
lot of improvising taking place. Are you, and now that we're fully into this second season, are you thinking about stories for season three and mapping that out and maybe setting aside ideas for this show
Hmm.
versus that movie versus,
Yep.
yeah?
Yeah, there are massive Google documents, there are notebooks, there are notes apps on my phone, there are text chains with, I mean, literally over 100 ideas at this point. And it's a big moving puzzle. Some of it is about, okay, curating a good 6 episode season. Some episodes are more expensive to make than others, so we have to make us, we're on a budget. We got to make certain ones in certain seasons. But yeah, we are almost done writing season three. I'm literally gonna hang up with you in an hour. I'll be going right back into writing mode. While I'm in New York shooting a Cameron Diaz movie for Netflix to pay the bills. So this is how it all comes together.
Yeah. I was wondering if you were in New York because I am too. I'm in Brooklyn. So I'm like, why are we doing this so early?
Why so early?
West
Yeah,
Coast
yeah.
guys. Is there more to come on the Out There Crimes of the Paranormal or in that? I know you and Joshua Rofe, you work together on the
I love those guys. They're incredible. I would love to make more of them. We are the show. I'm just going to speak candidly. It was enormously successful,
yeah.
way more than we thought it would be. And Hulu has basically come back to us and just said, "Well, we're only chasing the things that can, you know, do this kind of viewers and hold our bleeding subscribers." And that's not on Hulu. That's on everybody right now. The business is really kind of broken. And we're gonna have to find a new way of doing things. And I'm very grateful to have shows like the Creep Tapes, which, we made the whole first season on our own independently, so I could control it,
Yeah.
and that's where I came from, and I'm happy to keep doing that. But it really is a bummer because we have such fans of Out There, and we'd love to be able to bring more, and we have great stories. It just,
Yeah.
they're bringing things down and they're homogenizing things. It's a tough time.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is a good segue, and it's a self-serving question, but I also think it's something that everybody is just trying to understand out there. Like, so I, do the journalist thing, do the podcast thing, but I also do a lot of TV production, and also hosting. And, I've been on shows that last for a long time and they click. And then I've been on shows, with like a Netflix where it seems like the numbers are there and it looks successful, and then it just doesn't come back because of some internal logic or the algorithms or whatever.
Yeah.
You have been and remain an indie creator and you've spoken about this industry and you've talked about funding and getting stuff made and this is a weird system where we have more streams of content. I hate that word, more streams of content, and yet it seems like, yeah, less stuff is getting made. And then there's this mission of like, for some folks, which I think you do, get it made, own it, and then sell it or license it. So
Hmm.
for people that are not you, you have this established track record now, but for
Yeah.
folks out there that are trying to create, how do they navigate that to get the funding to make it and then license it or sell it?
Yeah.
Tips on
It's so
that.
hard.
It's
It's
so
so
freaking weird, man.
it's it's very difficult, and I can't sit here and be like, this is the path,
Right.
because we're at one of our toughest inflection moments right now. That said, if this is what you love and this is the only thing you can see yourself doing, I do think that there are paths and there are just different ways of looking at them. I mean, we created something for the Transgender Film Center called the Found Footage Feature Film Fund, and we're going to put up $25,000 for a trans filmmaker to go out and make this movie with some mentorship from me and Patrick Brice. And I think that that's a good way forward because it's in the horror genre. It is very cheap, but you can actually make and put a good movie and put a lot on screen for that amount of money with found footage or video diary or mockumentary, whatever have you. And while that movie probably won't go to Sundance and sell for $5 million like it could in 1999, it can still be a building block, and there are direct to audience distribution systems. And so I still think that path is the right path. And I still think that even if this one isn't monetarily successful, if you keep doing that, maybe 10, 15 years from now, you make one that does break out. And then all those earlier ones you made will sort of posthumously become more valuable because, hey, I want to go back and get Sean Baker's first movie. He just won the Oscar.
Yeah.
And you build a library for yourself. Look, I'm not saying this is a lucrative business, come in and do it. But I'm saying if you can't help yourself and you got to do it, there are smarter paths than others, and setting yourself up to make movies super cheaply that should be made cheaply again. And that's where found footage comes into play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the element of like you look at line items, a budget for, I don't know, I'm speaking from like a network TV,
Mhm.
and you're seeing how much fat is being added on there. Whereas you're like, I'm pretty certain I could do this for, 60K, 100K. You still have to find the avenues to get that 60K,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily accessible for a lot of people. But I mean, do you, I'm going to ask you to prognosticate here, but do you see those markets as the streamers like a Shudder or Hulu, as the fast type of channels, the YouTube?
Yeah.
Where do you see as like the areas where you're like, you know what? That's where I think is fertile ground.
I don't know. I can only speak for myself that what we have going with Shudder right now and the Creep Tapes is a really great model. What I had going with HBO 10 years ago with Animals and Room 104 was an incredible model. Low cost stuff that brings in a good audience, full creative freedom. I don't make them break the bank so that we can
Yeah.
stay on the air. I want to see more of that. I think these sort of more niche streaming platforms like Shudder, I think people are looking for curation, and they're not looking. They get overwhelmed when they go to sort of the thrift store that is Netflix and trying to look around. They want something curated. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we see more of that. But I won't let the nature of this industry slow down, stop me from making. I believe in the art of creation. I believe in the radical act of creativity. And sometimes going to make more money and sometimes I won't. But what else am I going to do at this point?
And that was Mark Duplass, the co-creator and also the star of the Creep Tapes on Shudder and AMC Plus. The second season premieres Friday, November 14th on Shudder and features guest stars such as a friend of the show, David Dastmalchian. And I do advise you to check it out. And if you haven't caught up on it, the first season of the Creep tapes as well as the first two movies, I mean, the first Creep movie really is a game changer as far as the found footage horror genre. So I would strongly advise checking that out if you have not already. Okay, this has been Talking Strange. I'm Aaron Sagers. Until next time, be kind, stay spooky, and keep it weird.